I'm honored to moderate this panel with all of these talented folks. These are really some good people. Hope you get some great information from this. The folks that I have over here, I've got Kristyn Berger, founder and president of Berger HR Solutions. Thank you. Matt Bralove, who is a co-founder of Zone Accounting.
Morning.
And Kevin Spargo, vice president of sales for Computer Services Unlimited. We're going to have a chance to go over what we do later in the panel. I wanted to kind of weave it in. So I wanted to talk about what is outsourcing as the first item. I have a definition here, but I kind of want our panelists' take on this. A formal definition could be the allocation of a specific business activity to an external service provider specializing in that activity. The activity could be short-term or project-based, or a long-term activity integral to the overall business. So that's sort of a clinical definition. But how does that manifest for all of you? I'm going to start, ladies first. Kristyn, I'm going to start with you and get your thoughts on what is it to you? What does outsourcing mean?
I think the key for me in outsourcing is really adding to your team without having the added payroll. So many small and mid-sized businesses, we have to do so many things. I know myself as a business owner, my primary function is HR, but I still have to process payroll. I still have to manage my books. I still have to make sure that my computers are up and running. There's so many things that I have to do that if I were going to hire people onto my team to do all of those things, I as a small business owner could not afford that payroll. I really need to focus my payroll dollars on my core business, which is the HR consulting. So outsourcing really allows me at a reduced cost to bring on experts in all of those areas so that my team and I can focus on our highest and best use, while I can leverage my teammates, as I really see my outsource partners as part of my team, to help me whenever I have that accounting need, computer need, outsource marketing. And it really helps my team be more successful and be able to focus on what it is that we really love.
That's great. Thanks. Matt?
Kristyn, that was well said. I think the key here, it's a trifecta: time, knowledge, and desire. Do I have the time to do a project? Do I have the knowledge to actually do it well? And even if I have time and knowledge, do I have the desire to actually do the project? So what are we doing, right? We are outsourcing problems that we either can't fix, don't have time to fix, or don't want to fix. That doesn't mean every outsourcing is the right answer. And we'll get into that. There's a whole bunch of fun coming your direction on when is the right time and when is the wrong time. But if you can't check yes to all three of those, we probably need to outsource.
That's great. Kevin, follow-up thoughts?
Well said, both Matt and Kristyn. And having owned a business for 17 years prior to being with CSU and going from 2 employees to 50, I can tell you that as you go through different challenges and see different opportunities, one of the main things about outsourcing is that you'll never get a Kristyn or a Matt. Like even if you somehow made the decision, you know what, I'm going to hire an internal resource, you're not going to be hiring a senior level accountant, a CPA, a CFO, chief human resources officer. You're going to be getting a junior level talent. So I think for me, when you're outsourcing, that's a level of expertise and professionalism that you have access to in terms of strategic guidance and planning. And then oftentimes the execution can come down to some of those junior level folks. But you can't afford to do that and bring that in-house if unless you're of a certain size. So that's a big thing for me.
Yeah, I think that's such a critical point, because you can get a sliver of an accounting person, an IT person, an HR person, a CFO, all for the cost of probably less than any one of those. And that's really the crucial thing. And a lot of businesses, even large businesses, are going that route. So I'd like each of you to share what you do. Like, what do you take on in terms of outsourcing? How do you relieve businesses of the burden of what I call administration? It's not always administration, but things that are not necessarily their core business. So what are you relieving them of pressure and time? We'll start with you.
For me, I think the key to a good outsourcing relationship is that, one, your outsourced partner listens, but 2, they take a problem away from you. Maybe that problem is an actual project that you're doing. More importantly, and I think that everybody in this panel solves it, it takes the stress away from you. If you have the right partner, you should not be staying up late at night worrying about, are we getting the project done? You might manage the project, you might facilitate, you might check in, but if you're stressing, you don't have the right partner. So what is it that my firm does? My firm takes away your stress. I can't take away your taxes. I won't take away your taxes. I can take away your worry. And if at the end of the day I've done that, you're a greater version of you because you can focus on the next problem and the next opportunity.
Kristyn?
Great. So my team and I provide outsourced HR and organization development solutions. And one of the things I noticed when I started my business 3 years ago is so many people in the small to mid-sized business space have a what I call / title handling HR. So Director of Finance / HR, Director of Operations / HR. And many times that individual feels really good about the administrative functions of HR. So, in order to keep your business running from the get-go, you have to be able to process payroll and handle benefits administration. And most of my clients have a really good handle on that. It's everything else that they're missing. It's performance management processes. It's thinking about employee engagement and how are their employees adding to their brand. It's things like, I have an employee relations issue. This is the first time I've ever seen this. I think anyone who's been through an employee relations issue where it might potentially lead to a termination knows how stressful that is. You can never be an expert in any of those areas. All of you are really good at what you do. What we do as a team is come in so that you have that strategic HR support. So when you have that stressful situation, or you're trying to take your business to a more strategic level when it comes to HR, that you're not going at it alone, that you have us as a backup, and that you have that, as Matt said, it takes away your stress, but then also gives you a sense of confidence and security that no matter what happens and comes your way, and I think we all know with employees, just about anything can happen, that you have a strong team supporting you and will make sure that you get through whatever comes your way at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Kevin?
So for Computer Services Unlimited CSU, we are trusted technology advisors to our clients. Small to mid-sized businesses, we're one of two things. We are their IT department, or if they have an internal IT person, typically we're providing oversight and strategic planning and things like that. But for us, it's not just keeping their computer systems or their network up and running, could be the annoying day-to-day tasks like I can't print, and you know this, if you have employees and you don't have any IT resource, it's them coming to you or somebody designated person in your office, I can't print, I can't get this spreadsheet to do that, I think I caught a virus. You go through the list. So our clients don't have to deal with that. You've got a new employee starting. We set up their email accounts, set up their computers, making sure that your data is backed up and secure, and everything in between. You're moving your office, making sure that you know what that entails, and making sure that you have connectivity and all those things. You have multiple offices, all that stuff. But the other thing is also leveraging technology to actually help you grow your business. It's amazing when I'm talking to people and they just look at, oftentimes, technology as another expense. But what I tell them is that technology is actually one of your best employees. It doesn't go on vacation. It doesn't ask for raises. It's your most productive employee. And the other thing is it also makes all the rest of your employees productive. When you go into the office and things don't work the way that they're supposed to, and you're working 10 times harder, and in spite of whatever tools you have trying to get your job done, it's very, very discouraging. So for us, it's not just keeping them up and running, but it's also kind of looking ahead of where they're trying to get to and seeing opportunities where they can, save money and be more efficient in processes and things like that, and really take advantage of technology the way that they should. So.
Sure, absolutely. And I would add to the technology piece, it enables something that didn't exist even 20 years ago, and that's global reach. I mean, Bluestone is based in Timonium, Maryland, and we have clients literally all over the world, and we can do work from anywhere. And I imagine you guys can do the same. It doesn't really matter. There's technology tools, whether it's Skype or remote access to information, and that's phenomenal. Certainly companies have that, but when we can centralize that, we can make it a lot more efficient.
And to your point, it moves so fast now. That's the other thing, right? Like you have all these new technologies coming at you. And trying to vet those as a business owner or manager is impossible. I mean, you have to, and even within that umbrella, you have to stay in your own lane and really talk to people that know what's going on and which direction do I go? Oh, I went the wrong one. I'm going to have to scrap that and go this way. So that's a good point.
Absolutely.
How much it's changed.
So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about when companies come to you, when your clients decide that they need to outsource. Do they do it early? Do they do it late? I mean, I have a little perspective on this that I'll sort of kick this off with, and that is a lot of times people come to us that know about us, they've talked to us for years, and then there's a problem, and something, oh, I need help, and they don't know how to do it. So, and that's I think the worst time. But is that your experience as well? How do you be proactive and get in front of that? How do you convince people that no, you really need to plan this beforehand? So I'm going to start with you, Kevin, because I've kind of started with everybody else.
I would like to say that people come to us and are proactive and do it in advance.
But you'd be lying?
I would be lying. It's usually, their lack of planning, their lack of being proactive is usually an emergency for us. So we get calls when maybe they've been hit with ransomware, or their computer systems were built on a poor infrastructure and things finally have collapsed, or they lost their data. And that's a constant challenge, so I would say that's coming in late. I always advise people, to not only buy the right technology, but then get a professional, like, one of the panelists up here or one of you out there, get a professional that knows what they're doing to at least make sure you're set up correctly. Even if you're a small company, you might not need a retained service like us until you get to a certain point, but at least make sure you have the right infrastructure out of the gate. And then it's a lot easier to scale up versus continue. People kind of jerry-rig things, and they'll go to Best Buy, or they'll go to Google. Google's great, YouTube's great, but unfortunately that's not a professional advisor that you want to be using. So
and it's probably not integrated. So I fixed this, but then I broke that. And
it's amazing. So I would say it's a challenge trying to educate people on the importance of coming to a professional like one of us early on for the planning, for the guidance, and things like that. Some people get it, and unfortunately, oftentimes many others want to wait until it blows up, and then they come to us.
Yeah. How about on the HR side? What do you think? What is your experience?
So I find, of course, many times people don't come to the HR consultants or to the employment attorneys until there's a fire. They have a difficult termination. They're caught up in litigation. They discover that they're out of compliance, and I'd be lying to you if I said that a number of my clients don't come to me that way, when they come to me because they truly have no choice. But I find that being proactive from the very, very beginning of starting your business when it comes to employment really helps set businesses up for success. And so one of the things that we've done with our business is making HR consulting available to businesses from the very beginning, because something as simple as just making sure before you hire those first couple employees that you've thought about your employment brand. What are you really hiring for? Who's going to be reflective of the brand that you want to create? Because as soon as you start hiring employees, your first hire, your second hire, those are some of your most important hires. So you want to make sure you have a really good hiring strategy and you're really clear on what your brand is. And also from a compliance standpoint, you want to be proactive. So something as simple as making sure that you have a handbook, that you have a really solid payroll system that's going to give you all the functionality that you need to effectively running your business. Those few things that you can do up front, which aren't extremely expensive, can really set you up for success, so that you're not retroactively dealing with a fire, but you're proactively preparing for those things.
Absolutely.
And from my perspective, a little bit of audience participation. Let's wake this up. Who loves paying taxes? Come, don't be shy. Get it up there. Who loves it, right? Okay, new question. Who loves when their accountant won't call them back? Come on. So how do I get new clients, right? I get clients when your last person doesn't call you back, when the IRS does call you, when we have problems like that. Well, what's the best time to solve that? It certainly is not in that moment. I'm going to give you the best piece of advice I can give any new business owner, growing business owner, and experienced business owner. Call your accountant. If you don't have one, hire an accountant. That doesn't mean you can't file your own taxes. We'll talk about that. It does mean you should talk about your vision, right? So when you walk into my office, I don't look at your tax return. I don't care about your tax return. I care about you, what you're doing, and where you're headed. Once I know that, we can develop a strategy. So to Ken's excellent question of what's the right time, every time you think about doing something new in your business. I had a client come in the other day, and I didn't do their 2017 tax return. I'm doing their 2018. I look at it. In 3 minutes, I've saved them $15,000. Now, I can't go back and save them. I can do a little bit to take about $3,000 off. How much do you think they paid their accountant? They paid their accountant $20,000 last year. 2 things are wrong with this. 1, they should not have paid their accountant $20,000. 2, they shouldn't have paid more tax than they needed to. And Ken and his team can attest to this. Call your people, use your people. The hourly rate to come in and meet with us for an hour, 2 hours, 10 hours, it will set you up on a path to succeed. It will save you dollars. It will take away the stress. And it will make you better at what you do. So the right time is every single time you know you're not calling your accountant is when you should be calling your accountant.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, the clients that we work best with are the ones that come to us, hey, I'm setting this entity up, I'm creating a business, I'm doing something. And yeah, okay, we'll work with you because you don't have a lot of money, but we'll be an investor in your company as you grow. And they are the best long-term clients, and they're the easiest because we've helped set them up for success. And ideally, we brought in partners like these guys that have helped as well.
And to that point, I would tell you, and I know from your great team and from my great team, we can save clients $10,000 for the cost of $500. If I told you you could buy a $500 lottery ticket and win $10,000 next year, would you do it? Every single one of us, every single day. But when it comes to pricing, we get scared, right? We get nervous. And if I can just quick tangent for a moment,
Sure.
When we think about our services, we all care about budget, right? How much will it cost me? That's too much, I'm not paying it. Each of you right now, do you have a smartphone in your pocket, in your purse, in your briefcase? If you do, how much do you pay a month for that? Too much, right? It's a fortune. People are paying hundreds to thousands of dollars a year to have this technology that makes our life better, that saves us time, that makes us smarter, more efficient, that saves us time and money, and we're willing to pay for it. We have a panel of great people, we have a room full of fantastic people, and we're afraid of how much it costs. Take the analogy of what your smartphone does for you, and imagine if you had a real person that could talk back and ask you questions. I'm sure Siri is great and personable, but when you ask that question and get asked, or your advisor asks you a question and then you give a response, for that same cost of a monthly cell phone bill, we're talking real value across all platforms, insurance, banking, IT, accounting, HR, everything you can think of. So for a moment, whenever you get a little bit of sticker shock and you think, no, I'm not ready, I'm not going to do it, grab your cell phone. Think about how valuable that is to you and translate that value into what your advisor might be able to help you with.
Agreed. Absolutely. So segueing into, I guess some examples. How have you helped your clients specifically, without naming names, obviously, confidentiality, but give me some examples. And Kristyn, I'm going to go back to you and give us a couple of war stories.
Sure. So, I think it's very interesting. Like, I do have some war stories.
Probably more so than in certain other areas.
But I'll say, I think what tends to surprise our clients is really how much strategic value that we can add. Mm-hmm. So many times people initially come to me, again, for an employee relations issue or a compliance question. Hey, Kristyn, we're going to be hitting 50 employees soon, and I want to make sure that I have an FMLA process that's compliant. They come in for those types of things that are a little bit more of, again, the check-the-box administrative type of HR. Where we can add additional value is really around strategic vision around employment for a business. And I think that's what surprises people. They think we're going to come in and set them up with a handbook and give them a compliance and then say, oh, you're good to go. And where we can really come in and help you drive your business. I think people forget that HR isn't an administrative function, that it can be strategic.
What's your biggest expense? I bet it's payroll for almost every company.
And it's, and I really look at it as your people are your brand. Your people are your business. And if you're not thinking about your people in a strategic way, you're missing out on a real opportunity. So a great example that I see with a lot of my clients initially coming in is I come in, we help them with compliance, we get them set up with that handbook, then we realize, what's your performance management process? And many people look at me like, what? Well, what do you mean? We do performance appraisals. And I'm like, yes, and what does that performance appraisal process look like? Well, once a year, we spend 2 weeks writing up performance appraisals and delivering them to employees. And
we love it. We love it.
Right. And I always, and how do your managers feel about that? They hate it. I'm like, well, performance management process should not be a burden. It shouldn't be something that people dread and that they don't want to do. It should be something to really help you drive the success of your business and to help your employees feel engaged and as though they're being developed. So we work with our clients from there to figure out, what are you looking to accomplish through your people? Are you setting expectations and KPIs so that your employees know what's expected and how they can add to your brand and what you're offering to your clients? And then really setting up a performance management process to make sure that those objectives are communicated, that employees are held accountable, so that when you get to the performance appraisal at the end of the year, it doesn't really matter. It's really a nice summary of all the great work that employees have done throughout the year. So it's not an administrative function. It's really something that's woven into your day-to-day of the business. But again, I think a lot of times when people think about that process, they do think of it as an administrative function. So it's really taking things and elevating it to a more strategic level.
Sure. And I would argue that continuous performance management, if you can manage that, is a lot more effective. You're giving people tools in real time and building them. And the year-end performance review, oh God, what am I going to hear? And if employees are surprised at that time, you're doing a bad job.
My biggest fear as an HR professional is that someone gets a performance appraisal and is surprised.
Yep. Absolutely. Thank you. That's great insight on the HR.
And if I can add to that too, it's
please.
Funny, and this probably applies to certainly all of us, and I'm sure to many of you. You always have these business owners that complain it's about their employees or it's someone else's fault that they're having these challenges and things like that. And then those same, employees, those B players, they go on to other companies and have tremendous success. Why is that? Well, the problem's you, that's why. I'm sure Kristyn goes in there half the time, or Matt goes in there and you go in there and you say, hey, I found the problem, it's you. And then they either ask you to politely leave or hopefully they engage with you and use your services, but that's what I found anyway on that.
That's funny. A football analogy, Drew Brees' original team, terrible. And then, for the Saints, wow, amazing.
Wow.
So anyway.
So two quick things. One, Kristyn is fantastic. She won't tell you how good she is, so I will. So 7 a.m. back in early January, I believe, I text her and I say, Kristyn, call me when you can, right? The call that all of us love to get, the call me when you can. Call me immediately. So she does. I'm standing outside of Panera, and I say, Kristyn, I need to terminate an employee. And I won't go through the details, but Kristyn was responsive, fantastic, and on top of it. And here's the thing, I was freaking out. Because the thing that I needed to terminate for is not a good thing. It is something that impacted my business, impacted the livelihood of the employee that was getting terminated, and it had a lot of emotions that go with it, both from an employer and an employee standpoint. So think about this. For a 15-minute phone call and whatever magic she did to help me, I got a resolution. The employee got a fair resolution. Nobody sued anybody, so a win. My company is back to making money. That employee is back to making money. We're all happy. And it's because of my hero right next to me. So a little bit of kudos to her. But really,
And I would say Matt has done the same for me several times. So
Kristyn's a liar. But anyway, the quick war story. I've seen about 5 clients in the room. I'm going to tell you one story about one of them very quickly. So you got a 20% chance of guessing. Here's a client that did nothing wrong. Current accountant says, you're going to owe 10 grand with your return. And the client is sitting down with their financial advisor and saying, how do I come up with 10 grand? This isn't going to happen. And financial advisor says, well, can we have an accountant take a second look? So this is a financial advisor I had networked with, come into contact with. Their team calls me and says, Matt, would you take a look? I figure out, and sorry client, it's gonna seem very easy when I tell you the answer here, one question that I asked saved that client $10,000. Now we did more work and it was more elaborate than that. One question. So what's the difference? In multiple years of working with that client, the prior CPA never asked that single question. Now we're all human, we all make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. This was a lack of being proactive thinking and taking care of your client's needs. It's not fraud, it's not that they misrepresented themselves, they just didn't know to ask. So when you think about how do we help each other, right? We're all business owners or key employees in businesses. That burden, as Kevin said, that's us, right? We're the ones screwing up. We're the ones not thinking through the next step because we're too busy, too rushed, too focused. Oh, too focused is bad? Yes. Too focused on profit without process. Too focused on getting home at 5 o'clock to catch the kids' baseball game instead of figuring out 2 days before that, how do I plan to avoid this? Too focused on saying yes to our clients. What do you mean saying yes? That's a great thing. No. Being too available, too responsive means you are minimizing the current clients you have too much. So let's not be too focused on the wrong things. Let's be very focused on the right things. Hire the right people. Involve the right members of your team. Don't do it all by yourself, right? Outsourcing can also be half insourcing. Hire us, but hire your people inside. When you're choosing a new vendor, don't just make the choice yourself. Bring in a partner, not an equity partner, a team partner inside of your organization. Maybe that's your administrative person. Maybe that's your compliance person. Whatever that is, your best marketer that you have. Call that person into the room because then you don't have to be solely responsible for figuring out the solution and figuring out the needs of your company. You have people who are going to tell you the needs of your company because they are your company. So insource while you outsource.
That's a great point.
Yep, absolutely.
Kevin, you look like you had something to follow up on.
No, and ours kind of run the gamut too as far as examples on that. When we go in and meet with a prospective client, we ask a lot of questions. Oftentimes I find that, and again, for all of what we do, there's good companies out there, there's ones that are not as good. But oftentimes people will ask over the phone, how many computers do you have? Do you have a server? And I'll have a quote over in 10 minutes. We will go out there and we will literally go through all of your hardware, software, how everything is set up and configured, talk with you about where you are, where you want to go, what applications you're using, things like that, and then do an audit and then come back and basically give you our recommendations and some support options. When we're doing that process, we also look at your phone bills, your internet bills, and ask for a whole lot of other technology-related things that that touch your environment. In doing so with one of our current clients, we found that they had a few offices. At 2 of their offices, they had dedicated fiber internet, which was costing them $2,600 a month per location. And the funny thing is that one of our clients in the very same building had Verizon Fios for $99 a month. That was, plenty of speed and all that stuff. And what had happened was this company's former IT person had a reseller agreement with Verizon, and they were probably making 60% of that $5,200 a month off of that client. So
wow.
We came in, we ended up negotiating with Verizon, ended up getting the client out of that arrangement early. I mean, they're a nonprofit. It was almost criminal what was going on there. And that the last time we went to the client for the renewal, traditionally we'll go to them and we do these 1-year renewals, and they said, this is the best negotiation I've ever had. They said, can we just make this 3 years, and can you actually make it for this much instead of this much? I felt like I was LeVar Arrington's agent negotiating with the Redskins when he said, I'd like $5 million, can we give you 20? But that's the relationships those are the relationships that we build, because I think transparency is important, whether it's any one of us or with what you do. It's not just that you're good at it, but it's also, are you transparent? Do you have the trust that they know that you're acting on their in their best interest and on their behalf? And I think that when you have that and you look at those long-term relationships just versus short-term wins, that's when you build a sustainable business, and certainly in Smaltimore, you want to have a good reputation. So.
Smaltimore.
If
Absolutely.
I could piggyback off of what Kevin said for a minute, and Ken, I know you're headed here because your vision is fantastic on these questions. What I think Kevin said was really important. He alluded to knowing what your vendor has in it for themselves. I'm not saying we're all selfish and we're all trying to take from you, but here's the thing. You go out and you hire blindly, because we don't really know who we're hiring until we work with them. So I'm going to tell you a dirty little secret about every company you ever hire, and you guys are guilty of it too. We all lie. We're lying to you and we're lying to ourselves. We're not maliciously lying. We think we can do a great job or else I wouldn't bring you on. We think we can do it better than our competition, and we think we know enough to do the job. The truth is, part of that is true in every single sentence I said, but it's never 100% true. So think about this. I'm going to go hire an accountant. So what do? I ask my friend for a referral to an accountant. Oh, you got to work with Matt. He's fantastic. Okay, call Matt, hire Matt. That shouldn't be my question. That might be my entrance point. That shouldn't be my question. How do I know if Matt's the type of accountant that I need, that Matt can do the work, that he has relevant experience, that he has time, capacity, the knowledge, and the caring desire to actually take care of me? All I know is the person who I trusted him. Well, that's great. That's a starting point. Do your diligence for every advisor you hire. Ask questions, but don't trust the answers. And here's what I mean by that. Matt, do you do taxes? Yes. Do you do them well? Yes. Are your fees reasonable? Yes. Okay, I'm ready to hire you. Can you give me, give me an example of your fee structure? Show me when I should see something that's unexpected. Okay, here's what my return look like. Don't tell me how much it's going to cost. Tell me what I'm not thinking about. Here's my business structure. Why is this my business structure? If I can't tell you why you are what you are right now, how am I going to help you tell you what you should be in the future? So the real question here is not trust me because of my title. Oh, he's a partner. I start a company tomorrow, I'm the partner. Don't trust the partner. Trust the knowledge and the capability. And I know this team up here is top notch. We're all guilty of lying to you. And we're not doing it on purpose. Catch me in that lie.
Wow, that's one of those toss it out there. So, but it actually segues nicely into the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is, when should a company either not outsource, or when do you, as an outsourcing company, say no to a client? And what are the choices people make or should make on both sides? Kristyn, I'm going to go to you.
Sure. So there are some things that do exist that should stay within your business. So for me, like payroll processing is a really great example in my world of, if you're going through and doing your payroll process, I'm not there to see the hours that your employees are working. I'm not there to know if they've taken a PTO, they've requested PTO time. Something that only someone within your office can necessarily manage and control, you want to keep that internal. Also, that's a great example of something that you shouldn't necessarily pay someone outsourced. If you have someone within your office who can, for $15 an hour, handle that process, don't go outside of your business because you're going to pay significantly more to have someone do it. So that anything that really needs to be owned by the business and that you want someone internal to control, don't outsource it. But anything else where you don't have expertise within your team, absolutely it makes sense to come to someone like those of us on the panel.
Okay, so like confidential information you don't necessarily want out there, you might want to hold that back.
Exactly. Anything, again, the confidential information or anything that's so highly specialized that you do, it's really, you should stick to your core. So for me in my own business, a perfect example is my HR consultants really know HR. And
one would hope.
Pardon?
One would hope.
And that is not a lie. my HR consultants really know HR. Other things, like for example, right now, we're working on a new brand in marketing. We want to make sure that we have a hand in it. We don't have expertise in that area. So for me to pay my consultants the rate that I pay them to do HR work, they're not worth that rate doing marketing work. They're worth that whenever they're working as HR consultants. So it's very important in my case, in that specific example, to bring in people with that expertise so that my team and I can be most successful.
Makes sense. Matt?
So for me, it's very simple. So can you hire my firm? Yes. Will I work for you? No. And so when should we not work together? The difference, why I say you shouldn't work for me, I work with you. My team works with you. So anybody who doesn't have the desire to put the time in to collaborate is not a good fit for my firm. There are firms that will take your work, take a shoebox, go through everything, and they're great at what they do. That's just not my style. So here's the key to being a really good business owner, right? So I sit down with hundreds of business owners a year and I give advice out. And I take some of my advice back. And here's the thing. To be a really good business owner, you need to understand personality. It is not about the nuts and bolts, the technical. Everybody with a comma CPA better be able to do a tax return. Well, Maybe. Everybody with a common CPA better know enough to do what they're tasked with doing, but they may not be the right personality for you. So I always essentially interview clients as they're interviewing me. If you're the right fit personality and you're willing to partner with me and not hire me to take away your problem completely, we're a good fit. So what don't I do, right? I don't do bookkeeping. I partner with people that do bookkeeping. I don't do payroll. I partner with people that do payroll. I don't do audits. I know firms that do audits very well. So the answer is, I do what I do really well, and I know to say no really well. And that's what makes me a really great business. And I think that's, if the one takeaway for you guys in this room, say no to the things you don't do well, and say yes to hiring the people that do that thing very well for you.
Have to agree, 100%. You know, there are clients that we've interviewed and said, this is not a good fit. And I think the level of transparency and discussion has to be had. And there's a lot of companies that, they're just out for revenue. I'm out for a business that's long-term and sustainable that my employees are happy to come to. And when you have clients that are demanding in a way that's unreasonable, it's damaging to the company and to your employees. And like, that's not the kind of business I'm building. So I agree a lot, Matt. Thank you. Kevin?
That's well said. And I think that, certainly security, does it make financial sense? These are factors, but it really is a case-by-case business for your unique business. The other thing too, though, is outsourcing. To me, there's different models of outsourcing. So I'll use technology as an example. If your company, if you're a solopreneur, if you have a couple of employees, and again, this is depending on what your business is, if there's compliance-related things or other more technical reasons that it would make sense to outsource. You might not need a managed IT company like us, where we're monitoring your systems 24/7, where we're doing all these proactive things for you. It might make sense financially for you to use what we call a break-fix IT company, they will help you as needed. So sometimes, and again, it depends on your business, but if you're a landscaping company and you call me and you say, hey, you know what, if my laptop craps out, that doesn't really impact our daily operations. We just have a couple of employees. I'm not going to say, you know what, you should really use us. You really need us. So I think it's important, if you feel like you're being sold to, if you feel like somebody's more interested in getting your business than building a relationship, then those are the conversations I would be very leery of, because that's funny. A lot of times I'll go in and I'm talking to people, and I don't look at everyone I talk with, and I know these guys don't either, as prospects. It's more so asking the questions, getting to know what their needs are. And if we're a great fit for them and they're a great fit for us, that's great. If they're not, hopefully you have a transparent partner you're dealing with that stays in their lane and is honest about what they're good at and not good at. And they'll tell you, hey, you know what, you don't need us yet, or you should go do this. But oftentimes you'll find these business development folks that are out there, which I'm sure those guys will talk about later, they just want your business. They just want your cash. And those are the people that you got to do your due diligence. Everything we've talked about, it ties back to that. So,
and an interesting piggyback on that, when you're interviewing your potential service provider, ask them about the type of clients they serve and get real numbers. One of the things I advise clients on is never be in the bottom third of your vendor's client list. If you're the bottom third, you're the easiest to forget. You're not paying them enough in fees for them to care. They will take care of you. They have to do the professional diligence, but you're not getting proactive. You're getting reactive. For the best of all intentions, even if I want to take care of my bottom third, the two top thirds keep me very busy. Find somebody that you can be right in the middle. Find the right size pond for your size fish, right? So I think that's exactly right. Long-term relationships that we're talking about building here, it's not transactional. It's not, they were the cheapest. They might be the less expensive, but cheap is not a good thing for business.
That's interesting. When you do the math, if the 1/3 goes away, then there's still another third. It's this asymptotic thing going to zero.
At one point, exactly right. At one point, audit your people, right? Don't create a relationship and stay in it. They might be the right relationship, but check back with them because their business model may have changed. Maybe they were a 2-person shop doing HR consulting. Now they're a 30-person shop, and you're not as important. That doesn't mean you're not good, but you're not as important as their new client. Make sure you know that, because if you don't, it's a very scary place to be.
Awesome. So we've got about 5, Linda's just telling me, I was actually paying attention. We've got about 5 minutes left, and I want to have these guys give some final thoughts, but I want to open it up to the room for any questions before I do that. So any burning questions from anyone out there? Okay, we've taught you everything you ever needed to know about outsourcing. So just a few final thoughts. What do you want to impart, the knowledge that you've been dying to get out there and keep them happy? Oh, so we have a question. Okay. Passing the mic.
Hi, thanks
Hi
for
there.
you guys' input. My question is, what are some key drivers behind whether or not you should outsource versus insource a particular service? I work on a marketing team at a manufacturing company up in Cockeysville, and I'm a team of 2.
Okay.
And I was just brought on a few months ago. My supervisor focuses more on communications. I'm more market research. So we often find ourselves limited resources in terms of marketing.
So I'm going to take that for just a moment and then let these guys chime in. My view is consider, not necessarily do it, but consider outsourcing anything that is not your core business. So if you are making widgets, focus on making widgets. Outsource your accounting, outsource your HR, outsource your IT. That's my initial advice, and I'll let these guys
And I think that makes
respond.
perfect sense. Being a numbers guy, right? So figure out how much you bill your customers per hour. If you don't know it, let's talk. But figure out how much you bill your clients per hour. Figure out how much your outsourcing would cost you. If the math says you make more money to do your job, as Ken's saying, and outsource the rest, you do that to the point that you're at capacity. At the moment you're bored and out of work and can't bill the next client, outsourcing doesn't make sense. Now I've got cash out without cash back in. Mm-hmm. If you don't know your hourly rate because you do value billing or you do package pricing, back into that number. Look at your number of hours and the amount that you're billing for the project. There is always an hourly rate underlying what we do. Do the math. More in than out, outsourcing is good. More out than in, we're backwards.
Any other thoughts? Kristyn, Kevin?
I think that.
All right, covered. Good. Thank you for your question. Any others? All right, so we're down to 3 minutes, 2 minutes. Kristyn, last thoughts.
So I think I obviously think in terms of employee engagement and also just individual engagement. I think we're all the happiest when we're really focused on our, what I call highest and best use. What is it that really engages you as an individual, as a business owner? What are you really good at? What do your clients value? That is your highest and best use. Outsourcing is a way to push all of those other distractions, the things that you're not comfortable with, the things that you don't excel at, and take those things off of your plate so that you can really focus on those highest and best use things, which obviously is going to make you happier, and it's also going to make your clients happier because you're going to have the time to do what you can do for them and to do it really well, and you're not going to be distracted by computers crashing, realizing that you're close to the tax deadline, all those things as business owners that really take away from our attention and keep us from doing what we do really, really well.
And your outsourcing providers should be integral parts of your team that you call upon, and they are proactive and advisors, really. Mm-hmm. And when we do back office and accounting and bookkeeping, and if we're doing it as a transactional thing, we're not doing our job. It's not just reconciling the bank accounts and paying the bills and here's your financial statements. It's giving clients information about those financial statements. What's happening? Hey, we noticed that you're spending a lot more on this. Are you aware of what's happening? Just anything that's proactive and gives clients advice, because we're looking at it. And again, not transactional. On the HR side, it's not what the employees get paid. It's how is it impacting the business? And if your outsourcing provider is doing that, the value is a multiple of what you're paying them. Even doing the math, as Matt suggests, sometimes the value is still there. So anyway, last thoughts, Kevin?
Yeah. Again, a lot of great comments and appreciated the opportunity to be up here with everyone. In our industry, specifically for IT, there's one model where you just get paid when things break. To your point, kind of being proactive.
Not good.
I think it's good to look for partners like us where and these guys, where you're proactive. Our interests align with yours. People always ask, well, are you guys doing anything when my computers aren't going down? Yeah, you're paying us so that your computers don't go down. You're paying us so that if something happens, we already thought about that, and there's a system in place so that we can bring your data back or make sure that you're up and running. So again, I think making sure that you're vetting your partners, doing your due diligence, because when you're a business owner and you have so many different things coming at you, and all of the services and things we offer in here coming at you, trying to vet those resources, trying to make sure you're going down the right path, it's hard. You almost feel like a general contractor who decided to finish your own basement, and you realize it's a nightmare afterwards. So you want to surround yourself with those core group of people that can help advise you. No.
Absolutely. Final thoughts, Matt?
One final thought is, you started your business with a vision. If what you're doing day to day isn't part of that vision, don't do it.
Great words. Great final thoughts. Thank you very much.